Welcome back. This is the 9th module on UCS Director. We kind of covered the basic workflow in the last session, and then also there is a session on the bare metal agent. Now this one is kind of a bit advanced. Like here we're going to combine the workflow for UCS, workflow from Netapp, workflow from your SandSwitch, and then also the bare metal agent, and then also vCenter. So all stitched in one workflow. But again, it's a linear one. There's no kind of there's no if and or something like that. So if there's no kind of dual path here, it's kind of straight. It goes one after one. Just to make it clear, these are the steps, manual steps involved in that process. Now, whatever we try to do in any workflow, as I mentioned before, we're trying to just put the manual task into your automated way in workflow. So these things must be able to be done through manual steps. And probably the company is doing, or your customer is already doing this stuff. So you have to probably just note down and see what are the steps they do. You are not expected to be master of all of them. So you would work with the masters, with the experts, and kind of make that workflow. Maybe there's a process involved, maybe there's a approval involved. There also maybe a service now. That's another topic altogether. Maybe the request comes from the service now. That's also another option. Not out of the box, but you need to kind of integrate with the service now or any kind of order catalog providers. PSC, Prime Service Catalog, is one of them. This is just, I'm talking about the UCSD. We're trying to automate the workflow. And once you get it, then you can probably, put it in any other cataloging. UCS tasks involve SandSwitch. Means UCS tasks involve like you're creating a service profile from template, then, applying on the blade. Then SandSwitch tasks like, zoning, activate the zoning. Then storage array, creating a iGroup. Adding your WWPN number that was created on the UCS into the iGroup, then creating a LAN and the LAN to the iGroup. Again, this is the storage words, so storage guys should be more familiar with that, and probably need to work with them to know which volume it goes, what kind of size it should be, and all those stuff. Naming convention, operating system task, then it's install the operating systems onto the VMware. Onto your ESX UCS server, and then virtual center added to the virtual center. Now, in a kind of typical enterprise environment, there'll be probably UCS is one team, SandSwitch probably another team, storage maybe other team, and then the VMware maybe another separate team. So 4 teams probably have to work one after one. Now, this is the list your list of tasks. We made it. There's no straight way that this is the way you have to do that, or that's the way. Whatever suits you, whatever makes you achieve the goal, you can tweak it. This is a lab environment. I have to tweak few things here and there, but whatever works for you. So idea is to get that steps into the workflow. So here it starts with like say creating a service profile from template. Then we modify the UCS service profile boot policy. Like the boot policy have to be a PXE boot. So, and it has to be in the native VLAN. Maybe on your Linux on the UCS, that may not be possible in the production. So, but you can do it at this stage, and you can just swap the Linux later. That's the greatness of UCS. And then once the service profile is created, you have all the information to create a zone. You need the WWPN number from the service profile, and that will be passed to the next task, which is zoning in the MDS in this case. And that next one is create an initiator group, iGroup in the Netapp, and then associate initiator to the iGroup. The initiator you got from the service profile, add to the iGroup, and there is 2 paths, so two of them. Create the LAN and then map the LAN to the initiator group. These are all storage tasks. It's very familiar to the storage people. Then map LAN to the iGroup, because you have to provide the LAN to the iGroup so that the server can access that. And once this is done, storage is ready. Now you can associate the service profile on a blade. This you could do earlier. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever it suits. And then you get the IP. In my case, like I have a limited IP, and we kind of make a pool, and we just keep using this one. In production, probably it'll not be the case. So you could get the IP address from the user even, or you can assign that in the pool or whatever suits you. But in my case, I have a pool, static pool, and kind of I get the IP from there. And then the set up PXE Boot, because on the PXE Boot it'll ask for the management IP address. So you'll need that information before you set up the PXE Boot. We set up the PXE Boot as a task. Then it starts doing all those magic, install the operating system, run the scripts, and make it prepared. So we wait for the time. I put 15 minutes here. Once it is done, the operating system is ready, installed, and then I modify the service profile boot policy from the PXE one, which was we need for your installation from the BMA to the SAN boot, what it's supposed to be. Once it is gone to the SAN boot, and then we remove the PXE boot setup. So that number was there, so we kind of marked as completed, and then remove. Probably just this is shown in the second time on the top, and then add VLAN to the service profile. At this time, maybe the VLAN was 1830. In this case, I kind of added this one here, but in your case, maybe in the production, you might have to have a different VLAN or different Linux. Means whatever you need to do, you can do it at this stage. And then power off the blade, just to power off and power on. Means after all this change, and then wait for the server to come up. Once it comes up, then it should add to the vCenter cluster. Now this task is to the cluster. There is another task available on the Cisco communities. This will not give the domain name to the vCenter, because for that you need an entry in the DNS server. I don't have the access to the DNS server, and we can do that for the lab. So in your case, you can use the other one, which will add the domain name to your vCenter. I'll show you all these things one by one, and let's get going. A lot of things to do here. And then you monitor your once it starts, it can monitor what's going on, and the log goes what exactly it is doing. At this stage, it is just associating is going on. And then what are the parameters kind of created during this your workflow? What is the WWPN number is created? What is the zone name is created? Those things will be there. You can see all the information on the right side. Yeah, so instead of going through the slides, let's go and jump into the UCS director. Most of the time, you would have a workflow already. You can download from the Cisco website. So communities. So if you search for Cisco UCSD workflow index. So there are heaps of your workflow available. Many people has done around the world, and they have kind of uploaded, and Cisco developers also keep adding stuff here. So something you don't have in the system in the out of the box, or you don't get from anywhere, you can download from here and start doing it. So like bare metal ECS Netapp example, this is a good one. So probably similar to our one. It'll not be exactly your case, but you can start rather than going from scratch. You can also do it from scratch, like if you have time, but this can be a good start. This can be also a kind of troublesome, because sometimes something is done for other versions, maybe and that's not applicable for year one, so that can be also time consuming. So you have to keep that in mind. So I kind of get your basic from my colleagues, and then I kind of tweak this one here. Orchestration. So the one we are looking at is 5.5. Our vCenter is 5.5, though we have a 6 version, but we can add to the vCenter. So once you kind of add that, you'll have to go through each task. Means if you import from somewhere, you can go from each task and validate that. In this case, we have just one input from the user. That's the service profile name. So that's the service profile name. We get the input from the, whoever kind of requesting this one. That's all. Rest would be, this will be used for in multiple places. Maybe the LAN name, maybe your host name. So you could, add multiple things like maybe the IP address and, host name can be different, could be. So you could do all these things. And then here you select, UCSD org. I think I showed you before, the same task. So, and every time you do that, you kind of revalidate if you have imported from somewhere else. And then modify the service profile boot policy to PXE Boot. So the service profile created in the last task, that's the identity. And then you have a dedicated PXE VLAN and the boot policy that we select from here, this one. And these are done by UCS admin. And then we go to the zoning. Zoning again for the SAN switch team. The service profile is kind of we have imported from the previous tasks. Then HBA, which HBA, BHBA we're going to VHBA we're going to add the zoning. So there are multiple of them. The VHBA 1 and vSAN 1 is getting from the service profile. And then same thing, VHBA 2 and vSAN 2. Now here, okay, service profile type is service profile. Global service profile if it is a UCS central or it's a CIMC. So and then what are the things you want to do? Very familiar with the storage SAN switch team, so you need to work with them. What they need to do? Device alias, there's another option. So we're not using here. So zone name, see this one, we have created the service profile name, which we took from the user and the SRID. Service SRID -A, and that's -B. And the account is, this is 07 Netapp. So I kind of open this one here. Let's pause the recording. Sorry, the light goes off every after some time. So this is the Netapp. I kind of getting through the UCS director. So you can see the filer and the LAN initiator groups here. And this is the name of the initiator group. This is not done yet. I'll check it once we do that. And these informations you need to get from your admin. And which device you're going to you'll do that. 101, 102. Then goes into the Netapp side. So create initiator group. For initiator group, you don't need any input. We just create the initiator, same name we're using, SRID. And why you're going to do that is 007 Netapp 002. So that's the one. And these are standard stuff from Netapp admin. So initiator group, then initiator to the initiator group. So whatever the initiator is created, initiator group, we have created last task. We're going to add it to the initiator. And this is the one VHBA WWPN number of the service profile that we created in the first task. So these things you have to kind of know that, visualize that, and kind of add them together. So there's nothing else to do. So you just give them the initiator group name and the initiator. Next, you create the LAN here in the Netapp. So we have put the same name, and where the LAN would go, I think storage admin would know that, and he'll tell you. And the LAN size here is 10 gig and gigabyte. Once the storage task is done, then you have to map that LAN to the initiator group. So again, both probably is already done. So initiator group we already created in the previous task, and the LAN we created in the previous task. And you could put the LAN ID here. Or if you don't do that, then it will be done automatically. And which storage it goes to. Next is getting associate UCS service profile. So this is the service profile we got from the first task, and then while it goes, there's a pool, server BMA pool. You have to just make sure that there's enough blades there. So okay, that should be fine. Okay, next IP address. It could be redundant, means you might not need that if you don't want to do this way, but for my case, I've done it. So we made your pool, a static IP pool, if you remember, in I think the 2 sessions before. So we just use this one. So 40 to 44. These are the range we're going to keep using for all of them. And then we wait for 15 minutes here. We could also do another option for monitor PXE boot. In that case, it'll reboot and it'll wait. In the lab, there's some difficulty in that, so we just wait for here for 15 minutes. That's the time we you can tick that. That's the time we saw that it takes around and do everything safely. Now, sorry, before that, I think this is a very important part I skipped. Set up PXE boot. PXE boot, we need a few information here. Input, one is the MAC address, that's must. In this case, we are going to use the VNIC1 MAC address. And the server address, we got the IP address from the previous task, from the pool. Netmask, again, from the previous task. Server host name is the service profile name. The host name and the service profile is the same. Gateway, again, from the previous task. And few information. Okay, which operating system? So you can see that ESX demo, the one we created, is here. So, but we'll use this one because our vCenter is, doesn't there's a mismatch between the vCenter version and the ESXi. Server name server, this is the DNS server. VLAN, this could be different from the PXE, but this case is both are same. So this is the UCS VNIC Let's go over UCS probably. So this is the template. So VNIC. So this VNIC 0 has VLAN 1830, and if you see it here, this is native. That's a mandatory thing. Like unless it's a native, the PXE will not work. But you might not use the native VLAN for your management. So what it is going to do is going to change later to your 1830. And it will tag the VLAN, and it will not be your native VLAN. If it is a native, then you don't need to put your VLAN number here. Then the root password of that ESX server. Then time zone, if you have to add any additional parameters here. That's all. This gives your that PXE file to the BMA. It sends to the BMA, and the last session we covered that the magic it does, get that file, get the information from and make a TFTP file. So there's a file, and then it sends to the TFTP server to your UCS server. And then ECS server knows that which file next to look for, get the binaries, and install the operating system, then run the scripts. Okay, then we wait for 15 minutes after the setting up going on. And then we modify the boot policy. It was PXE, if you remember, because we needed that. We'll move to something more consistent. This is the service profile, and there is a there's a boot policy created on the UCS, which is kind of Netapp -LAN 0. Okay, let's have a look at that boot policy here. Again, there are many people using this one. I really don't look at that, so I just care that my boot policy it boots, and this is the target, your Netapp I'm going to boot to. That's their target numbers, WWPN numbers. That's all I care. And based on this, they will have zoning and the I groups and everything. And after this installation is done, we'll swap the boot policy from PXE to the SAN boot, and then it'll kind of keep booting from this your SAN disk. Okay, let's do one thing. Before I keep going, let's initiate this process so that it saves some time. Otherwise, we might be sitting here for a long time. So UCSD, I'm just initiating this task so that it kind of keep going, and then I can show it later. UCSD demo 31. Let it go. It'll take quite some time, I think 30-35 minutes. All right, once it is going, let's go back to that workflow. Okay, we're up to here. Then modify service profile boot policy. We have seen that. Remove the PXE boot. So this to clean up the setup from the bare metal agent. Add VLAN to the service profile. Again, you don't have to do that. Means if you don't need it, but you can tweak things at this stage. There was a PXE boot and there's a PXE VLAN. Now you're going to change this to something. Means whatever you need to do, you can do that. Then power off, power on UCS server. Again, it takes some time to come up, and then you register to the host. So now this one is this is the IP address of your ESX host we just installed, and then it goes which account it goes. It kind of vCenter root password, and there's your licensing. Now, if you go into here, there is another one for UCS. I think what is the name? Okay, yeah, this one. Register ESXi to the vCenter using hostname. So this is probably more usable in production. So you have to probably vCenter server should be able to resolve hostname, both short and FTP. So you need a DNS entry for that. Should be able to resolve the ESX hostname and register, and so you could do both hostname and the domain name. They're pretty straightforward. You can download this one. You can use your environment, but it's not applicable for the lab. You can have DNS entry, so that's okay. So now if we go to the UCS, I think you should see a service profile at least to start with. Yep, demo 31. And it is doing all other stuff right now, like your and again, if it fails at certain state, that's okay. And so there's an option you can resubmit the task from certain task, like if it fails, say here, so you could fix that. Maybe there was no blade, so it failed. You just fix that, get some blades, and run the system task, and then initiate again from there. So you don't have to go from beginning and do that. So that's another good thing, and you can see the logs, what's happening. Waiting for association, and okay. Now which is done? SAN zoning is completed, right? So what is the name of the SAN zone? Let's find out. Zone name. SAN zone created. So name of the SAN zone is this one. Our name is this one, right? Okay, let's just copy this one. I'll go into the MDS. Okay. This is the MDS. Show zone name. So you can see the zone is already created, and we can check that active, still not active, because I think server is not, the operating system not installed on the blade, so it doesn't see that, and also the I group is not completed yet. So none of them are active. But if we go here, so it's like 001A storage. 001A. That's the B side is doing. So again, it's a lab, so I don't care, but probably in the production you should see. And again, this is the MDS on the B side, so 1A. Oh, okay, it has created the LUN, so we should be able to see the LUN. Let's see. And the what is the server name? Let's check it out. The ECS demo 31 dash blah blah. Okay, let's check here. See this one? We have initiator group. ECS demo 31 dash 354, which is the service request number. And the initiator is here somewhere, so I'll not look for it. LUN is here also. System that's the LUN is created, 10 gig. So we are kind of set till it is UCS service file association. So we can go to the UCS service file and then see that what is the status right now. So it's config and FSM 58%. So I'll pause this one at this stage and then probably come back once it is done. The service association is complete. Okay, let's now open the KVM because the VMware will kick in and start installing the operating system. We want to have a look on the KVM. Okay, here is the KVM. I think the association is complete. Now, if we go back to the UCS director, it set up the PXE Boot. So it has moved to the next stage, which is PXE Boot. And if we go back to the VMware here, I don't believe still it will have. Once it kind of gets the IP address, and then it will create the file. And let's check our MAC address. It's completed, 22. We have to clear it up later. So the MAC address here is expected to be 00E. Okay, this one, right? Yes. Okay, we have because we set to the task. So let's have a look here. So it's 26 PXE Boot ID. So let's go there. And we'll see if the there's 3 steps you'll see on the first screen. I think second step you can see if it is really working. If it doesn't work, then you'll see that the file is already created, so it should probably quickly pass through that and start installing. But if this file is not created for some reason, then it will stop there, saying that TFTP is unable to kind of locate or something. So that you know that there's some problem with this file. Maybe you didn't create the the setup PXE was not configured correctly, or maybe there is another entry already from the past with the same MAC address. Again, we'll cover in the troubleshooting session. Now, cd sorry. Let's see. This is a critical moment. If it goes through or not. Okay, yeah, that's passed through pretty fast. So it got everything. It will start installing the operating system. So So you see there is a 26 should be somewhere here. Let's see. Yep, there's 26. Okay, now let's see the case. So you see these are the files. It's from that file we just saw on the PXE linux.cfg. These are the files it's kind of copying right now. This is what's going on right now. And there is an entry here, therefore KS repository 26. This is the config file, the next one. And we'll have a look. After this is done, then it'll kind of executing that script. Okay, CFG password is in clear text here. So that's sandboot. That's what we configured. And these are the information we got from the pool as 40. The first one is still blank. And this is going to do just prepare the ESX server. Again, once talking to the ESX admin, if he wants to do some kind of thing here, add another, I don't know, something profile or something like that, so he can add here, or maybe firewall disable or do something. Those can be added here. And then lastly, you can see this power off. So I want this to power off and then start doing other stuff like change your profile and those things, and then bring it up. So if you don't change that sandboot policy and then it reboots again, then it's going to go through the entire process again. It's going to try to install and those kind of thing. Till the time you clear that 26 that PXE boot, if this MAC address comes up, it'll keep booting. So that's something you need to keep watch. So another place I can show once it is doing, there's nothing interesting to watch here, is if you go here, that physical compute. This one is in progress, 354 in progress. So for some reason, in a test environment, trying to install, and it's again, okay, this one didn't complete because we did not clean it up. If we clean it up, then it will go. It's the last one we did for the VM test deployment. This one in progress. For some reason, it didn't work, and you tried again. So the same file, maybe you have changed your OS type in the meantime, but it'll keep taking this reference unless you clean it up. So if you clean up, then it complete, it not look for it, and then a kind of new file will be created. So just to keep that in mind. So if I go back to that file now, it should be showing completed. OPT CNSA root. CFG. So 22 is complete now and expired. So nothing much to watch here. This seems to be a complex process, but again, probably most of the time you'll not even care what's happening here. But if this doesn't work, then you'll have to look at the files and see that what's going on here. So I'll probably put a pause here. Once the operating system is completed, then I'll start again. Okay, as you can see, the system has finished installing, and it will reboot now. Just waiting for the reboot. Now, if we go back, yep, and oh, sorry, it will shut down. It's power down. That was the last command. Wait time is still going on. So you can see the sequence from here. It goes all the way up. And it's PXE ID 26. That's we kind of checked. It is here. And before that, it kind of, got the IP address So here we are right now. I will pause it now and then come back once it moves to the next one. We can have a look in the meantime that checking your boot policy. So it just shut down right now. Once those things wait time and then those things are done, then it'll kind of come back. It'll reboot the server. It already changed the boot policy to the SAN boot. From the PXE boot. Okay, yeah, it has moved to the next stage. And now add VLAN to the service profile, and then it'll power on and power off. So one thing is like if you don't refresh, it doesn't show the rest of them. So there's a local disk. That's a kind of warning that you have a local disk, but you're booting from SAN. Okay, now why it says power off, power on, that's what's happening right now. If you see the recording probably a few times, then again it can be probably more clear. Wait for the boot to finish here. And next is register to the vCenter. So right now, if I go to the vCenter and that blade cluster, it has this host, but we would expect to add that host .40 once that task start running. You need to refresh this one. And you can also look at okay, it's rebooting. I can probably pause this one and I'll wait, come back once the booting is complete. Okay, server came up and it's now loading, booting from the SAN. And if you see the server detail here, once it comes up and the network connectivity is kind of restored in the operating system, then it'll jump to the next stage, which is adding to the vCenter. Okay, that's the IP address 40. So now let's go back to the here. Okay, this registering process has started. So let's see here. See this one? So this is the 40 popped up here and work in progress. It's completed. So now it's kind of done the entire task. It took some time. You could probably tweak it, fine tune that and make it shorter than 1834 to 1909. So 30 plus around 10, 40 minutes around. Yeah, in that time we waited for 20 minutes, so rest took 20 minutes. So entire thing is done in 40 minutes around. So if you see that, that's completed. Now, if something would have failed, it could resubmit the task. It cannot do that because it's kind of, the entire thing is completed. So if it fails, so something has failed, this one has failed. So you can resubmit the request in certain point, like, it failed somewhere. So you could start anywhere. You could resubmit from there. And now you have a new ESX host connected to your vCenter. And we did the entire process from a blank UCS blade, installing operating system, zoning, LAN masking, creating the I group and everything, and it's complete. And you could do, more things like, add a host profile to this one and whatever your company needs. So, yep, that's also, before I go, this is a good place. Like you can probably have a lot of the informations available, and you can also learn stuff. You have a questions, you can probably post it, and Cisco developers, they kind of, respond back to that. So make use of it as much as you can. That's pretty much it for the advanced workflow. Before we go, we'll probably roll back the entire thing with the lab environment. So roll back. So whatever we have done so far, that we're going to rolling back all of them. Clean it up from the UCS to Netapp zoning. Everything will be kind of cleaned up. And here, if you see these, and it's E, that's completed, and that's the BMA. Submit. It'll take some time. I'll not keep you waiting. Probably next your session, I might see that is 3:55 service request. But few of them will be pretty quick. So unregistered the host node. That's kind of done immediately. PXE Boot removed. Disassociation is taking place right now. So I don't remember the blade number, but we can look for here. Yep, that's the blade. Is blade number 8 on chassis 1. So that's getting disassociated. FSM, that's 50%. Put a pause for now. So the disassociation is completed. Now, if we go back here, refresh, unmap the LAN. So now it is working on the LAN. You remember we kind of saw the LANs was created. Those are gone. So is the initiator group. Yep. These are pretty quick actions. Zone set is removing the zone. It's probably disconnected. I think I don't remember the name now. ECS demo 31 underscore 354. This is demo underscore 31 underscore 354 underscore B, I think. Yeah, zone not present, so that's gone. Yeah, complete. So whatever we did in last 40 minutes is kind of roll back and everything is clean now. So somebody else can reuse the same thing. I think that's pretty much it for the presentation for this advanced workflow. This slide pretty much shows how we do that, but I think it makes more sense going through the demo. Now, after this, there is this is the add workflow, and you can publish that. I think we have done it in this simple your introduction to workflow. Similar steps required here. Design. Okay. Let me just pause. The light is switched off again. So next session could be on the customization. Again, I'm not a developer, but probably can guide you that which way to go if you want to customize something. So how the basic customization is done. Yep, and feel free to subscribe and comment. Thank you very much for watching.